This is the history of money.
Have you ever wondered how people traded before money was invented? Imagine a world where wallets and bank accounts don't exist. Instead, goods and services flow from one hand to another through a system as old as human civilization itself: bartering. This ancient method was the very bedrock of economic exchange among early societies. Bartering involves the direct trade of goods and services without the intermediary of currency. Picture a community where one person's surplus becomes another's necessity. For instance, someone with an abundance of fish trades with another who has woven a stack of baskets. Each item has no set price tag. Instead, their values are negotiated and agreed upon by the parties involved. This form of exchange required a keen sense of negotiation and trust, establishing the socio-economic bonds that communities relied upon. As rudimentary as it might seem today, bartering was a sophisticated system that addressed the immediate needs of early societies. As we delve into the past, let's uncover how these early exchanges shaped the foundations of modern economies. What exactly does bartering involve? At its core, bartering is the direct exchange of goods and services between parties without the use of money. This ancient practice predates any form of currency and is considered one of the earliest methods of economic transaction. In a barter system, there are no price tags. The value of items or services is purely subjective and often hinges on the immediate needs and desires of those involved. For instance, a farmer with a surplus of eggs might trade with a neighbor who has an abundance of milk. Each party agrees on the value of their goods based on necessity, preference, and relative abundance. This method of trade requires a mutual agreement, a meeting of minds where both parties find equitable value in what the other has to offer. It's a negotiation shaped by the context of the exchange and the relationship between traders. With no fixed prices, every trade was a negotiation, setting the stage for complex human interactions. Imagine trading a piece of fur for a basket of berries. This was the reality for our hunter-gatherer ancestors, who mastered the art of bartering long before the concept of money was introduced. In these early human societies, survival depended not just on what one could hunt or gather, but also on what one could trade. Hunter-gatherers moved seasonally, following animal herds and ripening plants. This nomadic lifestyle presented unique opportunities for trade. For instance, a group that excelled in hunting large game might find themselves rich in meat, but short on plant-based foods. Meanwhile, another group might have had a successful season gathering fruits, nuts, and medicinal herbs. These groups would meet to barter, exchanging surplus meat for an assortment of gathered goods. Such trades were not merely transactions. They were crucial for a balanced diet and overall survival. They also fostered intergroup relationships, facilitated the sharing of knowledge, and even the exchange of cultural practices. These early trades were not just economic transactions, but also a way to strengthen community bonds. Farming changed not just what we eat, but also how we trade. With the dawn of the agricultural revolution, communities transitioned from nomadic to settled lifestyles, fundamentally altering the dynamics of trade. As people began to cultivate land and domesticate animals, they produced more food than they could consume. This surplus led to opportunities for exchange and the evolution of more structured forms of bartering. In these burgeoning farming communities, a farmer with an abundance of grain might find himself in need of wool for clothing. Nearby, another farmer with extra wool might require grain to feed his family. These exchanges were facilitated by the permanence of their settlements, which allowed for the development of ongoing trading relationships. This increase in production and variety of goods not only enhanced trade but also fostered a sense of interdependence among community members. The agricultural revolution thus set the stage for more complex economic interactions, leading to a marketplace where a multitude of goods could be exchanged with greater ease. As societies settled, the items in the trading basket grew more varied and valuable. With specialization came more sophisticated forms of trade. As societies evolved, not everyone was a jack of all trades anymore. Some chose the forge, others the loom, creating a community rich in diverse skills. Imagine a village where one person's ability to craft metal tools becomes their contribution to the economy. In turn, they might trade a finely wrought iron plow for several bolts of cloth woven by their neighbor. This burgeoning specialization sparked a revolution in trade. For the first time, products were not just necessities but carried a craft signature. A pot wasn't merely a vessel, it was a potter's artwork, shaped by skilled hands and destined for markets well beyond its place of creation. Trade routes expanded, markets burgeoned, and economic networks stretched across regions. This complex web of exchanges was not just about trading goods, but also ideas and techniques, weaving a rich tapestry of cultural and economic connections. Specialization didn't just refine goods, it refined the trading process itself. But bartering was not without its challenges. Imagine the scene. A blacksmith in need of wheat finds himself in a bind unless he encounters a farmer who desires a new plow. This scenario illustrates one of the fundamental limitations of the barter system, the double coincidence of wants. Both parties must possess exactly what the other needs, making successful trades not just a matter of negotiation, but of sheer luck. Another significant hurdle was the divisibility of goods. If a craftsman offered a finely made chair in exchange for food, how would one divide the chair fairly to match the value of a loaf of bread or a basket of fruit? This lack of divisibility often led to impractical and unequal exchanges, hampering the fluidity of trade. Transportability further complicated matters. Heavier or bulkier items like livestock or large quantities of grain were not just cumbersome to move, they demanded resources and time for transportation, reducing the efficiency of trade and limiting the distance over which goods could be exchanged. These complexities weren't mere inconveniences. They were critical barriers that stifled economic expansion and necessitated innovation. As communities grew and the variety of available goods and services expanded, the impracticalities of bartering became increasingly apparent. The need for a more adaptable, practical method of exchange was clear. These challenges necessitated the evolution of more efficient trading methods. How did ancient people overcome the hurdles of bartering? In the intricate dance of barter, the limitations were numerous and the solutions quite ingenious. As societies grew and trades became more complex, the necessity for a standardized medium of exchange became apparent. This led to the birth of commodity money, items which held intrinsic value and were universally accepted within a community. Imagine a bustling market in ancient Mesopotamia. Here, grains, livestock, and shells were not just goods but were used as commodity money. Grains, a staple of life, became a common currency. Livestock, valuable for both labor and food, also served as a unit of trade. Shells, collected and treasured, became small, portable tools of exchange. These commodities were the early answer to the need for a standardized value system, making trades smoother and more feasible across larger groups and distances. But the innovations didn't stop at tangible goods. In ancient Egypt, the development of trade documents and receipts played a pivotal role. Farmers who deposited their surplus grain in state granaries received receipts, which could then be traded for other goods and services. This system not only facilitated a more complex economy, but also introduced an early form of financial documentation and record-keeping. These early forms of commodity money and trade receipts were not mere stopgaps, but were foundational in the evolution of economic systems. They addressed the immediate challenges posed by barter and paved the way for more sophisticated monetary systems. These innovations were crucial stepping stones towards the development of money. Bartering was not confined to any one region or culture. This age-old practice spanned across continents, weaving a rich tapestry of economic interactions long before the advent of modern currency. In ancient Mesopotamia, the shekel, a unit of weight for barley and silver, exemplified one of the earliest standardized trading systems. This innovation helped streamline transactions in a bustling civilization where agriculture and trade were paramount. Moving to the fertile lands of ancient Egypt, the granaries played a pivotal role. Here, farmers deposited surplus grain and received receipts, which could be exchanged for other goods and services. This system not only facilitated trade, but also acted as an early form of banking, safeguarding the economic stability of communities. Across the Atlantic, Native American tribes engaged in their own unique bartering practices. Items like tobacco, corn, and animal hides were commonly traded, and some tribes introduced wampum, beads made from shells, as a medium of exchange. Across continents and cultures, bartering was a universal language of trade. The barter system laid the groundwork for the financial systems we use today. As we trace the contours of economic history, it's clear that bartering wasn't just a primitive practice, but a sophisticated system that shaped civilizations. From hunter-gatherers exchanging meat for berries to artisans trading pottery for textiles, bartering facilitated the first networks of human economy. This ancient method of exchange taught early societies the fundamental principles of value and negotiation. As needs grew more complex, so did the systems of trade, pushing communities towards innovations like commodity money, which eventually paved the way for the currencies we use today. Bartering also highlighted the importance of trust and cooperation within and between communities. These social bonds were crucial for the development of stable and prosperous societies. Even as we move towards monetary economies, the spirit of bartering, exchanging value in a mutually beneficial manner, remains embedded in modern economic practices. From simple trades to complex economies, bartering has been a cornerstone of human progress.